siblings in cryomancy.
The dead are my only kin.
You disgrace us all.
I fully understand that this is going to come off very hypocritical, because I've already made 2 videos in the past, both on 5 guest characters I would like to see in Mortal Kombat. So in total I've made a video with 10 different characters that I would like to see in Mortal Kombat 11. But it's come to my realization following the recent reveal trailer that we had for Fujin, Shiva and Robocop that this might not be the right way to go. And the reason I'm saying that is because the Mortal Kombat roster is so big, arguably one of the biggest rosters in all of mainstream fighting games, and there are so many characters that are missing from MK11. And I really got onto Street Fighter 5 when it came out a long time ago over this, and the reason that you haven't seen it on my channel is because I didn't have a platform back then to speak on it. I never used YouTube really, but the things that I installed Street Fighter 5 for are the same things that I'm gonna have to bring up for Mortal Kombat 11. Now a lot of people are not happy with the roster. They're not happy with characters like Cassie and Jackie. I know I pick on those 2 a lot, but their names come up a lot, so I have to use them as an example. And people bring up the fact that there are a lot of guest characters in this game, and there are core members of the roster that are missing. Characters like Ermac, characters like Smoke, Reptile, the list goes on and on. There are so many characters from the classic 2D Mortal Kombat games to the more recent 3D Mortal Kombat games that are completely missing from this game, and in place of them we've got some characters that we never asked for or wanted, and then we also have some characters that are not even from this game. Now, do I like guest characters? Yes, I 100% love guest characters. I want guest characters in the game. I want guest characters in all my fighting games. I think it brings something unique to the experience, but what I don't want is the guest characters taking up slots when there are not enough core members of the roster still in there. Now in my mind, I don't feel like there should be a Mortal Kombat game that doesn't feature the ninjas. The ninjas to me are like what Ryu, Ken and Akuma are to Street Fighter. I feel like they have to be there. There's just some characters that should always be in the game. They shouldn't be DLC. You shouldn't wait for the next game to see them. There shouldn't be a situation where someone's saying they've been in 10 Mortal Kombat games so they shouldn't be in this one. I feel like there are certain characters that should always be in the game. You may not like the fact that the timeline has split up. You may think that's a shitty plot point, but one thing it has done is that it's allowed them to continuously use characters that have been killed off, which I actually like, because let's face it, whilst Mortal Kombat has got an amazing story mode, when it really comes down to it, after like 4 hours the story goes out the window and you're back to just playing one-on-one fighting. So really we only really care about the fighting in Mortal Kombat. And what really makes gameplay special in fighting games? The characters that we use are what we really care about. And again, it's not to say that I don't appreciate story modes, that I don't appreciate what developers do when they try to expand on like the lore of a fighting game. I do appreciate that stuff, and I'm sure everyone else does, but again, the fact of the matter is that no one is playing Tekken today going, oh my god, I can't wait for the conclusion of the Mishima saga. Like if you're waiting on Tekken 8, you're probably waiting to see if some returning characters are going to be there or what new characters they're going to have there. If you're waiting on Street Fighter 6, you're probably not waiting to see what came of Bison or what Ryu's going to do next. You're probably waiting to see what new moves they're going to give characters, who's going to return, who's not going to be there, are there going to be new characters. So the success of a fighting game, I truly believe, boils down largely to what's on the roster, and there's just too many characters in the Mortal Kombat 11 roster that are just missing. They're just not even mentioned in the story, and there's a whole time warping thing going on right now, and there's no mention of guys like Ermac, like just none whatsoever, and I find it baffling. Now the reason that I brought up Street Fighter 5 earlier was because Street Fighter, as I said, has a massive roster, and Street Fighter launched with 16 characters, and I think like 6 to 8 of them people didn't even like. It didn't even launch with Akuma, and we saw how badly that game did. Now obviously Mortal Kombat has done well sales wise. I don't think the player base is as big as it used to be, but it baffles me when there's certain characters left off the roster. Now 2 characters that are barely ever left off, I think Scorpion was left off 1 game, is Scorpion and Sub-Zero. They don't get left out at all, and they shouldn't be left out. They're core members of the roster. They're like the poster children of the whole story. But the fact remains is that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are not the only 2 characters that carry this franchise anymore, and there are characters that I think should be on this roster in place of the guest characters. There are too many guest characters when there are too many core characters missing. With the inclusion of Robocop, which is going to be like next month I think, or this month, it's like towards the end of this month, we're going to have 4 guest characters in the game, and we still got no Quan Chi, no Havoc, no Ermac, no Smoke, no Rain. It's crazy to even think that these characters have been left off of the roster. It's like launching a Street Fighter game and not having Chun-Li. Now I understand that they think that having guest characters is going to draw in more people, and initially it might do that. If someone sees a guest character they really like, they might be drawn in for a little bit. Like I mentioned in my previous video, a couple of my older friends saw Robocop and they were like, wow, I actually want to use him. You've got Robocop and Terminator in the same game, and that concept is cool, but those people are not going to stick around. They're not the ones that are going to be funding the the microtransactions. They're not the ones that are going to be buying the custom skins that you release. They're not the ones that are going to be pushing what really matters at the end of the day. They're going to pick it up for a little bit and they're going to put it down. What you should be doing is bringing back fan favorites, and I can't understand why NRS is so standoffish when it comes to this. There are so many fan favorites from this game missing. And again, I know I sound like a hypocrite. I've said 100 times that I want to see more guest characters in Mortal Kombat, but I'm being very clear. I want to see more guest characters as long as we have the core members of this roster. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a video. I'm going to make a tier list sort of of the characters that I think should be in the Mortal Kombat roster from the highest priority to the lowest priority, but the members that I think are the core members that make Mortal Kombat what it is. And there's very obvious ones. I'll put the video up soon, but I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you think Mortal Kombat needs more guest characters, or do you think it needs some of its returning characters? Would you like to see some new Mortal Kombat characters, some new original ones as DLC? Would you pay for them? At this point, with the amount of characters that are missing, I'd rather they held off on original concepts and brought back some of the old ones. I'm not sure what the idea behind making people wait an extra game to play a character they like is. I don't get that. I don't know why you sacrifice one game so another game has a better roster. It doesn't make sense to me. I think NRS need to rest with the fact that although Mortal Kombat's story is really good, it pales in comparison to what really matters, and what really matters is the characters. I'm gonna speak for me. I'm not gonna speak for everyone else. I want a bigger roster and I want more core characters. I want some of the more cool female characters to come back. Melina, Lee May, to name a few. I want the cool male characters to come back. Rain, Smoke, to name a few. I am a big advocate for big fighting game rosters. I don't like small fighting game rosters. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a big fan of what Smash Bros have done. They're just packing on the characters. So the game has so much longevity. You're always going to find something new to do. You're always going to find a new matchup to learn. And a lot of people will argue there's too many characters in the game for Smash Bros, for example, or even Tekken 7 or Tekken Tag 2. There's too many characters, too many matchups to learn. It's too difficult. But if you have few characters and a lot of them people don't like, and not to say that they don't like a lot of them on Mortal Kombat 11, but there are quite a few that people don't like and people don't want there. But when you have so few, it's very easy to become bored of the game. And then when you have characters that don't even belong in that universe in favor of characters that we've grown up with, it kind of rubs people the wrong way. So just to be clear, I do like guest characters. I do want guest characters represented in fighting games, but I don't want guest characters in the game if they're going to come at the expense of core characters. And someone might be able to argue and say, oh, but they're not actually coming at the expense of core characters. They were meant to be here anyway, blah blah blah. You know, that whole tired argument. But at the end of the day, they are still a slot on the roster. They do take up development time. It's not that I'm not appreciative of them having Spawn and Terminator in the same game. I think that's very cool. I think it was very cool that Predator and Alien were in the same game, and it was cool to play as Freddy Krueger. So that's not what I'm saying. But if your core roster is not strong enough to begin with, if the characters are fan favorites that we grew up with, I don't think you should be focusing on guest characters. But guys, I'd like to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you want more guest characters? Do you think it's better to have more guest characters in over core characters? Or do you think the other way? Do you think core characters should be in instead? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will catch you guys next time. Peace.